I'm Brahmachari Jemal, and so I'll speak on this topic of Martha and Mary and of how we can perform seva, how we can do service with the right attitude, with the right understanding, so that it can take us in the right direction, which is freeing us from ego. That if we can live free from ego, then we can be perfectly happy. In fact, this is really the whole game of all of our incarnations. You know, it's not so much what we do, that we so often just think, oh, if I were to have more money, or if I were to have this position in life, in this company or that, then I'd be happy. But just think, how many incarnations the one simple thought of, if I had more money, how long that can bind us. And many of us, that we get over that, and that's fine. But another thought might come in. Oh, if only I was in charge of whatever the project may be. And God only knows. Perhaps everyone sitting in this room, who knows? Perhaps we all worked for an automobile company many lifetimes ago, and one other person was in charge at that time, and somebody else, and who knows what we've all done together. But even that one thought, if only I was in charge. And so eventually maybe we do become in charge of some, I don't know, department in some automobile company, and we realize, oh, it's not so easy for this, it's not that person, it's that position that's not so easy. And we go lifetime after lifetime. But the thing that holds this all together is the ego, is the thought that if I had this, or if I were to do that, then I would be happy. You see, once we become a Jivan Mukta, we still can live many, many lifetimes if need be, but they're not our lifetimes anymore. That action can still be going on, but it no longer is affecting us. It's very, as this title said, disinterested. That you see it going on, but you're not thinking, oh, poor me. Even it's very interesting to study these street dogs. You would think, what am I going to learn from a street dog? But you'll see sometimes they get a leg hurt and they're limping or something. But a human being would, oh, my leg or my arm or whatever. But the dog, kind of like he doesn't even notice. He just keeps going on. It's because the dog doesn't have much ego. And we too, we can have tremendous suffering happen to us. But if we refer it back to us, we'll think, oh, poor me. And you meet people and they go on and on about, oh, poor me. Or you meet other people, they have terrible things happen. Swamiji, his temple burned down and he was whistling and said, how can you be whistling? Your temple just burned down. But he said, it didn't happen to me. We can build a new one. That it's okay. I could be sad about my temple burning down for the next 3 years. Or I could just decide to be happy today. That he didn't refer that back to himself. So, to get on to the topic, finally, is that the way that we can learn to get rid of our ego really is through doing service with this attitude. First of all, not I'm the one who's doing this great service. In fact, Master said, if you think you're working hard, you're no good. And who wants to be no good? Of course we all want to be good, but if you understand what he meant by that, if you say or think I'm working hard, you're no good, because, I'm working hard. Now, of course, it's wonderful to be able to have lots of energy flow through us and to be able to accomplish many things. Swami Kriyananda was like that. Paramahansa Yogananda was like that. We want to be great men and women in this world and have lots of energy flow through us. But we think, I'm so great. I worked for 18 hours today and only slept whatever hours last night. Look at me. We're bound to fall and we're bound to suffer and we will constrict, and in fact, less energy will flow through us. But if we just say, okay, God is doing this through me today and this is how it's happening, then all right, then it works. The other point on that is the other side of it, that in serving, if we feel that not only it's noble to say I want to serve other human beings, that's good, that helps us get out of ego. But if we go one step further and say that I want to serve God in every human being, then that also becomes supremely freeing. That in the end we will just feel that it's God loving God, it's God serving God, It's natural. That God loves God. God wants to serve our brothers and sisters. So if you feel not that you're cooking food for your son or your daughter or whatever because you have to, but darn it, this is never going to end in this incarnation, that if you instead think, oh, I'm serving baby Krishna there, and that this is my duty, and that it's what God has given me, and seeing it as a duty that we have to, God has given us this duty, but if we see it as, okay, it's come to me, and this is what I have to do, fine, then you just do it. But if your mind's thinking, how did I get into this, and how can I get out of this, and why my neighbor doesn't have to do this, why do I have to do this? We're back in ego, and it hurts, and it doesn't feel good. So see it as your duty. But I wanted to make a point about that this evening. And the other evening we were talking about teaching in the monastery, and those of us who do teach, that all of us have gone through this feeling of like, I don't want to teach. I don't know anything. Or perhaps we give a bad class and it's like, I don't want to teach. But that's just as bad as being on the flip side. I know everything. I read all of Swamiji's books. I should be the teacher. I'm the greatest spiritual teacher. Both of those attitudes don't work. And no matter, I'm talking about extreme examples. But even what we're trying to do is just say, okay, whoever in the organization gave us this duty today, okay, I'll do it. But even then it's not that I'm doing it, it's that, okay, God, you have to do this through me. And this teaching is just an example that's very easy for me to talk about, but it's any job that you have to do. That don't feel this, oh, I really don't want to, or, oh, yes, I really want to. But even in that, you have to have enthusiasm for life. That it doesn't mean this topic was in a disinterested way that we perform this seva. That word, as Swamiji used it there, it doesn't mean that you just kind of do a bad, poor job of it, or just, oh, good enough, or you have to do your best, and it needs to be with enthusiasm and vigor. But the whole key is, it's not your vigor, it's not your enthusiasm, that you're just channeling God. And it's a strange thing, it is, to be doing something with enthusiasm but just watching and not thinking that you're the one doing it. I often experiment by eating food, but I try not to get too much into it. It's almost like I'm just watching another person eating food, and I just say, okay, I often will say Swamiji's eating food through me, and I just am watching, and it's like I'm feeding baby Krishna. It's not, oh, I really love this, and whoo-hoo, now I get to eat this, because suddenly then some food I don't like will come. Well, now I don't want to be mean to my host. Yes, thank you, it's very good. It's just whatever comes of itself, let it come. These are Master's words. And just see it as, this is my karma. This I created for myself in the past due to likes and dislikes. And the only way out of it right now is to calmly go through it and just accept it and do it. But we have to do it. The Gita is very interesting. That Krishna tells Arjuna, you must fight. And you have to fight your family members above all. Terrible. But he has to do it with God feeling that he's the one doing it through him. That it's the only way out of this battle. So we have to fight. And we don't want to be lazy. That's another point that I wanted to touch on this evening. Last night I tried to read something spiritual every night. It might be the autobiography of a yogi. Last night I just read a few slokas from the Bhagavad Gita. But in there I read Krishna saying, be neither attached to action or unaction or no action or something like that. And I thought, okay, I kind of understand that don't be attached to action. That's what we come here. We're always talking about Nishkam Karma. But I thought, don't be attached to inaction. What is that all about? And I started thinking that, okay, when we meditate, that we're really trying to get as still as possible. And one of my favorite lines in the Christian Bible is, be still and know that I am God. And that, let's face it, in meditation, it's difficult to get still. It's difficult enough to get the physical body still and to be able to sit there for whatever amount of time is appropriate for us. But then even further, it's difficult to get the breath and the energy to be still and ultimately the mind to be still. But let's say that we have a really good meditation and we're able to sit there for hours and hours and we're having all these grand experiences. Even then, we can't be attached to that stillness, to that silence. Isn't it interesting that when Sri Yukteswar first gave Paramahansa Yogananda Samadhi, he taps him on the chest, he goes into Samadhi, that the first thing when he comes out, all right, now start sweeping. That he said, I don't want you to get over drunk with ecstasy, that you might get too attached to this feeling of just floating in this bliss. And so that it seems, I mean, I don't know this from my own experience, but that we go into these states. First comes Sabikalpa Samadhi, and it seems like you have to be able to go into that inaction state where you're just perfectly still, but then you have to figure out how to get out of that and go back into action. And then figure out how to get back out of action and go back into that inaction. And so really, what is really important for us is a balanced life of seva and meditation. And it's an individual thing for each one of us to learn how to balance those. But the thing is, we need to be good at both of them. That we do need to be good at meditation. We need to get to that point where Sri Yukteswar is going to come and tap us on the chest, and that we get this samadhi, and that we think, oh, no more action for me, I'm free. And then, here I am again, back in action. And we also need to be able to act so well that we can be a change in this world, that we want to be a force in this world. I forget the exact words. I'm not even going to try to quote them. I'll mess it all up. But Sri Yukteswar, basically in the Autobiography of a Yogi, said that the more that someone advances spiritually, that it's not that this world is moving him and pushing him about, but he becomes an influence on the world and is able to change the world. And that's what we want to be. This world, it needs our help. And it becomes egoic if you think that, okay, what can I do to completely change the planet? But in some way you do need to think like that. What if it was yours? What if you were Babaji? What if it was your responsibility? And how would you uplift this planet? An interesting thing just comes into my mind. Swami Kriyananda once told a friend of mine who was he was really interested in the spiritual path, but he was also interested in politics, and he kind of wasn't sure what he wanted to do. Swami Kriyananda told him, things are so bad in America that even if Jesus Christ was made president, that he couldn't even fix it, that it's such a mess. So the point here is politics isn't going to fix it, but how can we really be a change in this world? How can we really influence things? And for myself personally, I think that look at the life of Buddha, look at Jesus Christ, look at Krishna. Their impact was lasting for thousands and thousands of years. And it was more by their example of how they lived, what they did, than some political change to try to force people to behave correctly or something like that. And so, okay, then we should strive to be a Jesus Christ, a Buddha, a Krishna, and we can do it. Don't think, yeah, he could do it, but, it might be 500 more incarnations for me. I don't know, maybe even more. You too. That God is within you. He's just hiding. He's hiding behind your desires, your likes, your dislikes. He's hiding behind that little bit of ego that goes, oh yeah, I'm Babaji, yeah, I can do it. Or you go, oh, no, I couldn't do it. It's silence. It's right in that stillness on the inside where you just know God's doing exactly what he wants to do through me, and that's that. And that's your little happy space. A saying that just often comes to me is, everything's as it should be. That God's just in charge of everything. He's doing everything exactly perfect. Now, negative people in this world they hear that. Oh gosh, they want to tell you about this problem and that problem. If God was there, why would this thing be happening and that thing be happening? But it's all so that each one of us can learn our lessons. In the end, it's all just made of light. That it's not that big of a deal, that we have an astral body, we have a causal body, and that whatever happens to this physical body, it's not that big of a deal. But how we react to what happens to this physical body is a very big deal. And that whatever karma comes to us, if we just react calmly, if we just do our duty with enthusiasm but calm. Master's saying is, actively calm, calmly active. That if we just go through life with that, then we're through that karma. Then that karma doesn't have to come back again. But if we really hate it, or we really love it, then it has to come back again. A little thing I read in somewhere of Master's teachings the other day. Don't be too attached to any particular culture. That if you're born as an Indian, or you're born in Indonesia or whatever, don't think, now I'm this, because it will bring you into that, and then you have to live more and more lifetimes as that particular nationality. But on the other side, that if you think, well, I really dislike whatever, you fill in the blank nationality, well, guess where you're going to be born next incarnation? And you're going to have to say, oh, okay, it's not so bad. And so we just neutrally, we go through all these things, but all these things that we're going through them to learn our lessons, to get over our likes and dislikes, to ultimately learn how to release the ego and give it all back and realize that it's all just been his dream. It's seriously this simple. You're not doing it. You're not the doer. That God is the doer. That he's the one who's been doing everything through you. And if you have little things, you've done this bad thing, that, you don't want anybody to know about this, God was the one who did it through you. And if the next time, let's say you have some bad habit, you fill in the blank. Let's say you do it again. It's such a bad habit. If this next time you say, oh God, you did it. It's not, I didn't. You did it. You did this through me. Master said he likes that. Give the blame to them, because you're thinking of God. And then the next time it rolls around, you're going to think, well, I'm just going to give it to him again. But then you start to think, it didn't feel quite 100% right. And why don't I just behave this time properly and get into this blame game with God? I don't have to do it this time. Perhaps I'll have the courage, I'll have the energy to get out of this particular bad habit. We can get out of all bad habits. We're the ones who put ourselves in them anyways, in some incarnation or another. And we're getting wiser, we're getting stronger, we're having more energy flow through us, that we can figure out that, hey, I have the power to get rid of that bad habit. And while I'm on that topic, that if you have many bad habits, first of all, don't worry. It's all right. Everybody has their thing that they have to go through. But don't try to get rid of all of them all in one day, New Year's Eve style, with some big resolution. Get rid of one that you know you can get rid of, that it's not serving you anymore, and you know you can fill it with a higher habit, and cut that thread. And then you cut the other thread, and you cut this one, and slowly you'll get enough energy to be able to cut the ropes that bind you. Has anyone here read Gulliver's Travels with the Lilliputians, I think? And the little guys, they were really small, and they bound Gulliver, and they tied him down with stakes. But their ropes were just tiny little threads. But there were so many of those threads that then he was stuck. And that's the same thing with us, that we have countless likes and dislikes. And that's what's clouding our consciousness and making us think that we are separate from God. So we need to do the arati, but I want to say one more story. And that is, when I first came to Swami Kriyananda, was in Gurgaon. He was drinking coffee and barista. And this was maybe the second or third time I've actually met him and spent a little time. And now it's embarrassing to me that I addressed these words to him, but I did. And I said that I just think I want to just go off in this incarnation and meditate in the Himalayas and just see how much meditation I can do, that this world, not really for me. It's not too much fun. And Swamiji looks at me with some kind of smile and, well, Master did say to me that my life was one of service and meditation. And, well, he did put them in that order for a reason, seva and then meditation, meaning that seva's probably going to be more of what I have to do. And well, you are here coming to me. This might be for a reason. And then he just kind of smiled. What do I do with this? I had no idea. But I bring this story up because we are all, each one of these great masters at their channels, and we're walking in their footsteps, and we're in this room this evening due to Swami Kriyananda's grace, but it very well may be for many of us in this room that we have a dharma to do a lot of karma yoga, to do seva in order to uplift this planet, that Paramahansa Yogananda came to uplift the entire planet with a new understanding of ancient teachings, but they're expressed in a new way that the planet needs right now. And we need to be channels for that. And so that's perfectly fine. But it's our attitude. It's how do we do it. And Swami Kriyananda always never saw himself as the doer. Ever. He only saw that his guru was working through him. So if we can live in that spirit, we will live and we will have a beautiful incarnation. We'll live in joy. Thank you. Joy to you.